Kaplan here, CEO of Top Worldwide, and this is a topic I love. This is a topic I think is really important because it's the new rules of PR. So much has changed. So much has changed for sure in the past 5 years, but actually in the past year or two. The number of possibilities that you can do on PR that are business driving, like sales conversion driving possibilities, it's really exploded. And so I'm really excited to do that today. One, if you are in charge of marketing or PR for a company, this will be super useful. Two, if you're a founder, if you're a CEO, if you're someone who who understands that how you're perceived makes a tremendous difference on your success as a business. And is Uber a transportation company that has some technology, or are they a tech company that's disrupting transportation? That answer to that question influences their valuation by tens of billions of dollars. And so if you're a CEO, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a founder, if you're someone that needs to scale marketing, if you are someone who wants to, find the, make PR work for you as not a cost center, but a revenue producing center, then this is the presentation for you. I always say, be careful of who you take advice from, but be patient with those who give it. So only 30 seconds on me and how we think about the world at Top Worldwide. And we're a global marketing agency. TOP is an acronym. It stands for Test, Optimize, and Perform. And we actually work in 6 different functional groups, 48 different marketing disciplines. And we do this literally all over the world in 20 plus countries. I want to start off by talking about what PR questions are we asking now that we didn't ask before. I always like to say, if I'm new to a topic, if I'm trying to understand something, if I'm trying to dive deep, I don't focus so much on the answers. I focus on the questions because the questions get me to the answers. So let's start with the old way and the new way, a PR question. So the old way for PR, we would ask this question: what upcoming company news do we have to announce? It makes kind of sense, right? It's like PR is a function. It's public relations. We're communicating things. We tend to think about it as a little bit of like a one-way street, right? It's like, here's what we want to say. Let's say it. How do we do it? Company news is important. So we still do talk about company news. We still announce things. We do still plan that out. But the new way is much more of what recent data can we utilize to create a newsworthy trend? So this is one of the biggest changes that has gone from really me first PR, which is like, I think I'm important. I think our company's important. We've got something to say. And we've turned it into you first, which is like, we've got to add value to you. And if we do that well, we get to ride along in the conversation with it. And so what's interesting is that the increasing role of data to do that. What turns you into a thought leader, usually the fastest way, is something that's hard, that's in scarce supply that people want. And the cool thing about data is that it's actually somewhat hard to do. I mean, lots of people try to do data, but they don't really tell a good story with it. It's hard to make something meaningful, impactful, something that hasn't been done before. So if you can do that, and I'll give you some pointers on how to do it, you can easily have something of high value, the data, that makes you, if it has high value, you are valuable by extension. So data, using data, packaging data, turning it into stories is one of the fastest ways that you can become a thought leader. It's one of the fastest ways that you can generate news and give yourself what we would call a PR news peg that you can leverage. New rule number 1, develop data programs to accelerate thought leadership. The key about data is that it tells a story that is valuable to others that yet can still ladder back to your brand's core value and positioning. When you do data really, really well, and you use it to tell a great PR story, it has incredible direct business benefits from you. It's not like your business is over, here, let me put it over here. Oh, my headphones there. Put it over here, like your business over here and like data's over here. And you hope people like see the data and maybe like glance over and say like, oh, I see a business over there. Oh, they're cool. Maybe I want to sign up with them. It's actually that you can like laser target. If your data's here, your business is here. It's like, if these are your business benefits, the reasons, your unique selling proposition, each one, let's say you got 3 of them, you drive a data point to each one. So if your unique selling proposition is you just do this, you save time. I was meeting with a client this morning, they like make shipping so much faster. And if that's the benefit, then you have a data point that's just all about like how much time people waste waiting for packages because they're shipping us slow, right? So that's a data point, tells a story, but it ladders to that brand benefit really, really well. So the nice part about data is that you can use it to tell a great story, and it's not disconnected from your value proposition. In fact, each data point, you should be able to say this one directly connects to the specific value proposition. So what other questions should we ask? Well, the old way we'd ask this question: why were some of our competitors featured, but we were not? Think of this for a second. Have you ever either sent this memo or received this memo? I'm guessing you have, which is like, what happened? There was this roundup of companies. Our competitor was featured. We're not in there. You know, what the heck? We got to do a better job with this. Either you sent that memo or you received that memo. That's my guess. And so that was the old way. The new way is a spin on that, which we can make this a little bit more productive, which is, how can we use our competitors' coverage to increase our mind share? So maybe it's not such a bad thing our competitors got coverage, got featured, because they're going to show us, and particularly this is true if you have a competitor, like there's larger players in your industry, right? Like you're like the startup, you're the scale up, you're the fast challenger brand, but there are some incumbents that get a little bit more airtime, a little bit more share of voice. So instead, if you're monitoring all of that, and you're saying, okay, great, you got mentioned here, we are going to in real time respond and contact that journalist, where they're going to have mind share about who we are. They're going to know what we do. They're going to see how maybe some of this data we have could impact their next story. They're going to feature us in the next one, or maybe if it's online, we get them to edit this one and include us. So instead of being worried that we're not in it, okay, let's monitor that competitive roadmap. Where are they? Where is their PR footprint? And let's use it to increase our own faster. This is like from the movie Apollo 13. It's from the movie The Martian with Matt Damon. This is how, basically, if you're around a planet and you've got a ship and you need to accelerate that ship, you go around the planet and that gravitational pull accelerates you. And so you can do the same thing with PR. So what the slingshot is let's look at our competitor. Let's search for their media coverage in the past 12 months. Let's map that to a list of media contacts. So our competitor got 800 pieces of coverage. And then let's go out and pitch them our new angle. We don't have to necessarily pitch them like, oh, our competitor is terrible and we're fantastic, but we pitch them like, let's use that data study. Let's add a trend. Let's add an insight that makes it really, really valuable. So you start with that. And then you can, on an ongoing basis, you can monitor all of their ongoing placements and use that to increase your footprint. So if your competitor, has the highway already built, just drive down the road. That's what the slingshot is for. Create a rapid response system to react in real time. And sometimes people ask me, like, what is in a rapid response PR system? A great industry to look at, we have a bunch of clients in industry, is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is based around a lot of rapid response. Why? Because there's cyber breaches all the time. And so that's a news peg. People want analysis. People want insight. People want to know how to prevent this for all of these breaches. So what we set up is we actually set up monitoring keywords, 10 plus different sources to track what's in the news. So we'll set up monitoring keywords, and then we'll have this automated feed of everything that matches a competitor name. Then as those come in, we'll have someone on our team curate those, like read the automated matches and say, okay, this doesn't really apply, not really for us, but this is right on point. We do that. Then we immediately in real time pitch the journalist who wrote the story to get mind share with that journalist and say, hey, saw your story, great story, but we have a different have you considered this? Here's a new angle on it. And then finally, we'll take that story and say, okay, well, it was covered here. Maybe it could be covered somewhere else. So we'll take the story, remove the competitor from it, insert ourselves into it, and then pitch 20 other lookalike journalists. So that's how that works. So if you do that, there's great power in that. And if you're in a competitive industry, a lot of players, if there are players that have a greater PR footprint than you than right now, super powerful strategy. Let's go into how this works. So 1, news opportunity is identified. 2, immediately pitch that reporter. And 3, target other key journalists. Those are the lookalike journalists. Okay, so here's an example if you want to see this in real life for one of our cybersecurity clients. This story, cyber attacks are an immediate challenge for businesses following the Iran strike. What actually happened is we monitored the Iran conflict. They wrote a story that was about, is the government at risk for a cyber attack, the US government? We said, hey, it's not just the government, it's businesses too. And then by day 2, they were running this headline. And then we took that story, pitched other journalists. It included the NPR correspondent for Morning Edition, and said, hey, this is a great story. You should cover it too. It ran on NPR's Morning Edition, and then that was syndicated to 250 NPR National Public Radio affiliates nationwide. Another question, old way. We'd ask this question, well, why aren't journalists more interested in this story, right? We put the story together. There should be more interest. We're not getting as much as we want. What's the cause? The new way is which story headlines generate the best A/B test results. So one thing you can do that's really, really powerful, you can just take a page for other forms of marketing, right? Like if you're an email marketer, you're a good one, you've probably done A/B testing. If you're like a landing page optimizer, you've probably done A/B testing. So why don't more PR people A/B test results from their headlines or their pitches or their stories? So what we'll do is we'll do it in maybe groups of 100 journalists. We'll have maybe 2 different approaches to a story, 3 different approaches to a story. So we'll like start with a few different approaches. Then we'll see what works. And then once we get like, okay, this story is clearly doing better. And we measure that by just opens from the email subject line, clicks. If we usually put a link inside it just to sort of see journalists click. We can track time spent reading the pitch, or if they forwarded it or if they printed it. We'll look at all of those things, and we'll sort of start with many versions, narrow it down to more of a single version, and then we'll start optimizing that version. So it's really, really powerful in terms of getting better PR results is to A/B test. Here's an example of a campaign that we did with Postmates and McDonald's. The campaign was Postmates wanted to drive new user acquisition by making consumers aware that it could deliver McDonald's full menu. So it was a McDonald's Postmates challenge, and we wanted them to place their first McDonald's order. We created this campaign around a little-known holiday, National Eat What You Want Day, that asked local residents in major markets what they want to eat most. So we actually did a data study for this. We did the survey. We knew a Big Mac would rank high. It ranked really high across the board. Usually McDonald's a Big Mac. And then we said Postmates would deliver the item for free only on this special day. So it was like kind of a promotion. It was sort of a scarcity. You had to do it today. And it was great user acquisition for Postmates because, cost of a Big Mac and delivered not that high compared to like the value of a new customer. So they were happy to do it. So here was the 3 viral triggers. And this is the stuff we tested. We tested location triggers. We started testing, okay, like let's make this specific to Houston. We tested time triggers. So we were testing like, how do we sort of like announce it? Like what are news pegs? We tried different versions before we settled on this holiday. And then we had an emotional trigger, which is what you want to eat, right? This is National Eat What You Want Day. So we utilized all those triggers, but we also tested scarcity on how many Big Macs do we have. So we tested versions of like, there's only 1,000 Big Macs to give away. You got to be the first 1,000. There's only 5,000. There's only 10,000. And we actually found that the sweet spot was this 5,000 Big Mac level, which was like scarce enough that it caused people to act, not delay, or not so few, like 1,000 where you're like, okay, probably they're already claimed. I don't have a chance. So this is actually what covered. This is all unpaid. This is earned media. This is straight PR. Here in a couple of the markets, ABC Las Vegas, ABC Tampa, they're running like our promotional coupon code on the evening news with the survey results, saying that Big Mac is the top choice for most craved food. Here's how to get a free one, all unpaid. Print publications. So whether it's the Charlotte Observer or the Courier Journal, they're running that, hey, Postmates wants to give you a free Big Mac today. Again, all unpaid. Influencers are spreading it. Chicago Foodie Sisters are not commonly covering McDonald's, but they are today. And then online media. So whether it's Heavy, whether it's other places, this is all running in a single day. So the results of this were in a single day, 70 plus media hits, all unpaid, 20 plus TV stations on the evening news running the coupon code, 75 million impressions, 7,400 new users downloading apps, over 6,000 Big Macs delivered. And this is all earned media. This is all PR. This is all no paid advertising spread. What we heard was that this was the best day of user acquisition in the history of Postmates, and it's all not leveraging paid media at all. New rule number 3, optimize your pitch via continual improvement. And I think the one thing we train a lot of PR people who join our team. And the biggest thing that we want to communicate, that we want to train, is that you don't have to be perfect in your pitch at the beginning if you continuously improve. if you're always thinking, how do I make this better? How do I go from okay to good to great to outstanding to world class? If I have a story that's doing great, how do I continue to optimize it? If we can get people to think like that, you can dramatically scale your results. And I've seen, we've had clients with other PR agencies other than top come in and they're used to getting, I don't know, 5 hits a month, and then they hits or media placements. So 5 media placements a month, and then they come to us and they get 100. And they're like, wow, where did that come from? It's because we're optimizing, we're continually improving. You don't have to figure this out. You should get better over time. I want to get into this question, which is the old way. We'd say, well, I was talking to this journalist. Now they stopped responding to us. How come they've ghosted us? The new way is, how can we track this journalist's engagement level? So one of the things we do in the new way that you can utilize is that we're tracking what we call journalist intent. We want to know if a journalist is interested before they respond to us or before they tell us if they're interested. So what are the signs that a journalist are interested? We're tracking if they're clicking links on emails they're sending. We're tracking if they're spending a lot of time reading a pitch. We have software that's going on that's kind of tracking, how long do they have opening their email. We're tracking all these things. And what we will do is we'll queue up a phone call. If we see someone's interest, it's like, wow, they're spending time studying this pitch. Let's call them now. We can see that. So instead of saying, why hasn't this journalist responded? Maybe they're super interested and they're just on deadline and they're busy and they actually are very interested and they just need a response right now. They just need a phone call. So tracking their intent is really powerful. And too many, I think, PR people right now are a little bit afraid of picking up the phone. Why? Well, a phone call is a little bit intrusive, but if there's someone's interested and you can help them and you can save them time, it's not intrusive at all, right? It's like when you see an ad that you love in a magazine, it doesn't bother you. You're like, oh, that's really interesting. When you see an ad for something you don't want, that's super annoying, right? So if you can track or journalist intent, know when they're interested, you can take a lot of actions to get results faster. I want to promote one thing, which is I have a new podcast called Top CMO. I'm learning things myself every week. I'm getting ideas, just idea starters. You take we're interviewing like hundreds of the best CMOs in the world, and you can learn a ton from that process. Drumroll, please. Use pitch analytics to track journalist intent. So PR folks before these new rules would tend to focus on just the analytics related to the article that was published. But there's so many more. There's this rich pitch analytics on what is the journalist response to what we're doing, even before an article is published. And so ask your favorite PR person professional about that. How can I get more analytics about the pitch? Old way, we'd say, what story or press release will we do next, right? It's kind of sequential. New way, how can we work in parallel streams to get results faster? So press release, were invented by a guy named Ivy Lee, and it was designed to be like the official record of truth. So there's only one record of truth. You do it sequentially. You don't release 3 press releases at the same time. But if we're not working in the press release model, if we're working, then we can personalize different pitches and we can work in parallel streams to get faster results. This is the new rule. Work laterally instead of sequentially. So what we'll do, and a great way to think about it, is what PR tracks do we need? Because those PR tracks relate to objectives. So let's say one of your objectives is, I want to increase our brand awareness. We want to be a thought leader. Another objective is we want to, promote this new product offering we have. Third one is, let's say you're a scale up or a startup and we want to position ourselves for a huge fundraising round. Those are 3 objectives you have. Then you can map PR tracks to each of those. You might say, okay, here's our data-driven thought leadership track. Here's our product-focused track. Here's our kind of fundraising based track. All of those tracks can have different streams of pitches, different KPIs on how we're doing, and we can work laterally. So instead of doing this like, oh, I'm going to work on my fundraising pitch now, and now I'm going to work on some thought leadership stuff, and then a little bit later, I'm going to work on this product one. That's how a lot of people would organize this. Instead, start working laterally, get parallel tracks going. You can get results faster. So I want to show you, when you have some of these parallel tracks, you can use blueprints to create stories for each of these tracks. So blueprints, we believe in structured creativity at top. What that means is that you're more creative through structure, not less creative. And so we like these frameworks. These are all based on, we analyzed hundreds of thousands of successful, media pitches that resulted in stories. And we said, let's codify them, give them names on the type of pitch for what really works. What are the blueprints that help journalists identify this as a newsworthy story? So here's some of the examples of that, and this helps us get parallel tracks. So geo ranking. Let's compare different geographic regions to each other. For Milkbone, we did the Doggy Love Index. What U.S. states love their dogs the most? An example of a geo ranking. Predictor, we say, let's make a prediction about what will happen at an upcoming event. AAA, if you know, the roadside car service is a client of ours. We'll help them make predictions about how many drivers are going to be on the road in Labor Day weekend. Battlefield, how can we explain our industry in terms of a warlike battle that is filled with drama and intrigue? So it's not Coke versus Pepsi who has more market share. It's like the Cola Wars. Can you believe it that when the Super Bowl was in Atlanta, Pepsi bought up every billboard just to stick it to Coke, right? It's a battlefield pitch. Big number. How can you sum up individual benefits to create an impressive statistic of aggregate impact? So like if this product can save you, X amount of time, how much can it save you over the course of a year? What could you do with that extra time you get back? That's a big number pitch. So the point I want to make is we can use these blueprints to create these parallel tracks, have more stories going on at once, and pitch, different types of reporters. And if we get more going on parallel, we have a better chance for good things to happen in the near term. We can drive more PR results. The old way, we'd ask, well, how many impressions do we generate for this media placement? New way, what is the domain authority of the media outlet who linked to us? So this is actually really powerful. And there are a few marketing fields that are converging in unexpected ways. And two of the biggest ones is PR and SEO, meaning search engine optimization, meaning rank high in Google, are converging. And in particular, this trifecta, PR, SEO, and data studies, you put them together and it's amazing the speed at which you can move Google rankings if your company wants to rank higher. And the reason is because data studies have great value. So they're linked to a lot by media outlets. If you take those links, so you create a data study, you pitch it through PR to media, and then you drive links back. It's one of the fastest ways. It's one of the fastest ways that you can increase your Google SEO rankings fast. And if you don't know much about SEO, it's basically, think of it as a little bit of a popularity contest. The more popular a website is that links to you, the more popular Google thinks you are by extension. And so data studies are pitched via PR are a great way to generate hundreds of links from one data study at a time. That's why you can move SEO rankings so quickly. So that is converging. And that's why I think, to go back to the screen share here, is that understanding your domain authority, which is domain authority is on a scale of 100. How important does Google think your domain is? And is it in the, if you're doing the 50s, you're pretty good. If you're 60s, you're quite good. If you're 70s, you're doing great. If you're 80s, you start to be among some of the best websites in the world. And it goes all the way up to, Wikipedia, maybe at the very, very, very top. So do you know the domain authority of media outlets who are linking to you? That's the new metric more than impressions. We still do impressions, but more of our clients start loving this metric, the ones who care about SEO. New rule number 6, great PR leads to great Google rankings. And if you want to sort of, if you're either A, trying to justify PR in the budget, if you can show the SEO benefit, which it done well, it has higher SEO returns than almost anything else you can do. That's great. And 2, I've had clients where, they're pulling for our agency work from 2 different budgets from, actually maybe even 3, PR, SEO, and like executive thought leadership content they want to do. And this whole campaign with a data study and PR and inbound link that's driving all of that, they're pulling from budget from all 3 to support it. So great PR leads to great Google rankings. PR is a powerful tool, just to summarize, for search engine optimization because it can build inbound links at a much faster cadence than traditional methods. And inbound links is still the number one thing you can do to move your Google rankings fast. And then you want great user engagement when people visit, so they don't just bounce off your page. If you have great engagement with what they're linking to and a lot of inbound links from high domain authority sites, you're going to be able to rise up quickly. Actually, any keyword that you want. And we've done this on some of the most competitive keywords in the world. Right. So here's the roadmap. If you want, I like to make things practical. So here's how to use PR to create links. 1, leverage a timely news peg, something that's timely. 2, create a data study related to that news peg. 3, post the study on your website. 4, pitch data story to mass media. 5, media links back to that full study. And 6, you get inbound traffic. You get traffic right away, immediate gratification, bam. And then you also get improved SEO. And you do this consistently. Okay, so here's scalable backlinks in action. These are 3 data studies our team did recently. Job availability index. We did a cookie consumption index. That was a fun one. Social distancing adherence ranking. We did that for COVID. And fried chicken report. That was actually a controversial one. We had lots of people up in arms. CBS this morning did a whole feature on that one. So we drove do follow backlinks, a total of 246 from those 4 reports. This was over the course of a month. And you'd be hard pressed to find another means where you could drive 200 plus links, all high quality in that amount of time to transform your SEO. That's a great example of that. And here's some of the placements we had. Old way. How do we leverage key moments on the cultural calendar? We'd sort of say, okay, there's, we want to be relevant to the culture. A lot of, B2C brands want to do that, also some B2B. We still do that, but we've got a new way. How do we create key moments that will capture cultural interest and attention? So we can leverage existing moments, but let's create some. And so what I was telling you about was this site, National Today. And we created this as the world's first viral holiday platform that drives consumer action now. So you can see that's what it looks like. That's a page where, so we created a new holiday for Laffy Taffy. And so one of the things I just wanted to show is that you can use these moments and create moments to drive your PR coverage. So if a moment doesn't exist that you think really should exist, this is how you create it. You create it via a combination of PR, influencer, and digital. And here's an example of brands that created holidays. So American Express created Small Business Saturday in 2010. That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Amazon, of course, created Amazon Prime Day. That's always in July. They were actually, really copying Alibaba use of Singles Day in China. 7-Eleven created National Slurpee Day, as you would guess, 7-Eleven, July 11th. IHOP, there's 2 National Pancakes Day. There's one tied into IHOP and one that's separate. They created that as well. So the point is that create these moments to give yourself an ownable asset that you can use for PR again and again. So new rule number 7, create your own ownable moments. It's about being relevant, but you can actually create the moment that allows you to be relevant. Let me give you a little bit of a recap. We're talking about, can we use data and the power of data to accelerate thought leadership? We talked about A/B testing, trying things out, continually optimizing as a way to get better PR results. We talked about creating moments, ownable moments that are real assets for you to be relevant. All of these things, all of these tactics may sound like a lot, but you put them together. If you get 7% better at creating ownable moments, if you get 9% better at using data to be a valuable contributor to conversation, if you get 5% better in tracking at what your competitors are doing so you can do a rapid response program and enter their conversations, all of those incremental changes add up to huge results. It can transform your PR. PR at its worst can have virtually no ROI. PR at its best has by far the highest ROI of any marketing discipline. And it's because PR can change perceptions. And if your perception changes, oftentimes from something that is maybe less valuable to something that is more valuable, something that is more relevant instead of something that is less relevant, you can change the entire fortunes of your company, your brand, your product line. Let me end on the final thought of the day, which is that I think this is a golden age for PR. There's a lot of noise because there's a lot of influencers out there. It's not clear what's a media outlet anymore. It's changing. There's a lot of noise in what's true, what's not, this concept of quote unquote fake news. So what it actually means though is a great PR program that is forward thinking, that is cutting edge, that is pushing the envelope of what's possible, can break through so much of that noise, so much of that clutter, and can totally change the fortunes of your company. So I think it's a more important time than ever, especially because every brand has become a content producer, a content publisher. There's a sense that, right, you need to produce great content to be relevant. So because of that, PR is a close cousin to content, and this is a great time to do it. So if you don't have PR as an important part of your marketing mix, now's the time to do it. Let me know if I can help, or if all of us at Top Worldwide can help. And Tom, thanks for hosting this, and wish you all that kind of success. Let's go implement the new rules of PR, and see me back here every week, Wednesday, for a different aspect of marketing, 48 different disciplines that we explore. So thank you all. Wish you all that kind of success, and go let me know how those new rules of PR are working for you. Cheers.